Boom. Engine explodes at 32,000 feet. Pilots unconscious. 198 passengers screaming. Plane diving to death. Then a 12-year-old girl walks to cockpit. Keys the radio. This is Phoenix. I have aircraft control. Black Hawk helicopters monitoring the frequency freeze. Phoenix. That call sign belongs to Commander Torres. She died 2 years ago. Wait, did that voice sound like a child? Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Southwest 2891, cruising 32,000 feet. Boom. Left engine explodes. Metal shreds through cockpit. Captain killed instantly. First officer unconscious, bleeding. Aircraft rolling left, descending. 198 passengers screaming. Tiny voice from seat 14C, I can fly this. Everyone turns. Sees 12-year-old girl, braids, backpack, missing tooth. Flight attendant, sweetie, sit down, girl, my mom was Commander Elena Torres. She taught me. I know what to do. Girl walks to cockpit. Keys radio. This is Phoenix. I have aircraft control. Black Hawks monitoring frequency freeze. Phoenix. That call sign belongs to Commander Torres, who died 2 years ago. Did that voice sound like a child? Military command, get confirmation now. Mia Torres sat in seat 14C, squeezed between a businessman typing on his laptop and an elderly woman reading a magazine. She was 12 years old, small for her age, with 2 brown braids tied with bright yellow ribbons. Her front tooth was missing, lost just last week when she bit into an apple too hard. She wore faded jeans and an oversized Air Force hoodie that was way too big for her. It had belonged to her mother. Her backpack sat under the seat in front of her. Inside was her mother's flight helmet from the final test flight. White with Phoenix painted in bold red letters. A small crack ran down the left side where it had hit the ground after the crash. She was traveling alone today, an unaccompanied minor, going to see her grandmother in Seattle. She hadn't seen Grandma since the funeral 2 years ago. Mia opened her notebook and started coloring. She was drawing an F-18, her mother's favorite. The flight was smooth at 32,000 feet. People were moving around, relaxed. Mia had almost dozed off when she heard it. A strange whining sound from the left engine. High-pitched. Wrong. Her eyes snapped open. She knew that sound from her mother's training recordings. Then it happened. Boom. The explosion was deafening. The aircraft shook violently. Mia's marker flew into the air. The businessman's laptop crashed to the floor. The elderly woman screamed. The plane tilted left. Hard. Coffee cups flew. A flight attendant fell. Overhead bins popped open, spilling luggage. Oxygen masks dropped, swinging wildly. Alarms blared. People screamed, cried, prayed. But Mia didn't scream. Her training took over. It was like she could hear her mother's voice in her head, calm and clear. First, assess. Don't panic. Assess the situation. She recognized that sound immediately. Her mother had made her memorize every aircraft emergency sound. Engine failure, explosive decompression, hydraulic failure, fire warnings, all of them. Her mother had played the sounds over and over until Mia could identify each one instantly, even waking her up in the middle of the night with emergency sounds to drill the responses into her. That was an uncontained engine failure. An explosion. Mia looked out the window. Black smoke was pouring from the left engine. She could see pieces of metal missing, jagged holes in the engine cowling. Flames were visible, orange and angry. The engine was destroyed. Completely gone. She watched the wing. Was it damaged? She looked for fuel leaks, for fire spreading, for structural failure. The wing looked intact, but the aircraft was banking harder now, descending. She could feel the deck angle changing under her feet. Mia did the math in her head, just like her mother had taught her. Engine failure plus violent shaking plus cockpit not responding equals pilots incapacitated. Pilots incapacitated plus damaged aircraft plus no one flying equals everyone dies in approximately 12 minutes. Unless someone takes control. She thought about her mother's last words before that final test flight. Elena had knelt down in their kitchen that morning, still in her flight suit, and looked Mia straight in the eyes. Her mother's hands had been on Mia's shoulders, gripped firm. "Phoenix, listen to me. If you're ever in an airplane emergency, any emergency, you use everything I taught you. Everything. You don't freeze. You don't panic. You fly. Promise me." Mia had promised. She'd thought it was a weird thing to say. She was just a kid. She'd never be in a real emergency. But her mother had known. Somehow, she'd known. And now it was time to keep that promise. Mia unbuckled her seatbelt with shaking fingers. "Sweetie, put your seatbelt on," the elderly woman shouted, grabbing at Mia's arm. Mia gently pulled away. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I have to go help." She stood up and started walking toward the front of the plane. Her legs were shaking but she kept moving. Step by step. One foot in front of the other. Other passengers were screaming at her to sit down. A man reached out to grab her but she ducked around him. The floor was tilting under her feet. The aircraft was in a steepening descent now. She could feel it in her stomach, that dropping sensation that meant they were falling out of the sky. Patricia, the senior flight attendant, was trying to calm passengers near the front. She was 45 years old, 20 years with Southwest Airlines, and she'd dealt with plenty of emergencies. But nothing like this. The captain wasn't responding to the intercom. The cockpit door was closed. And the plane was clearly out of control. She saw the small girl walking up the aisle during an emergency. A child, alone, with braids and a backpack. "Honey, sit down. Go back to your seat," Patricia said, grabbing Mia's shoulder firmly. Mia looked up at her with eyes that seemed too old for her face. Too calm, too focused. "Ma'am, my mother was Commander Elena Torres. United States Navy test pilot. She trained me to fly from the time I was 4 years old. I have 1,400 hours in flight simulators. I know how to fly a Boeing 737. I can help." Patricia blinked. This tiny child was telling her she could fly a commercial jet. It was insane. Impossible. "Honey, you're 12 years old," Patricia said, trying to sound gentle even as the plane shook around them. "I know," Mia said, and her voice cracked slightly. "My mom died 2 years ago teaching me to fly. She made me practice every day. Every single day. She said it was important, that I needed to know how to survive. I didn't understand why. But now I do. Ma'am, please. I'm not letting everyone on this plane die when I might be able to help." Patricia looked at this small girl. At her oversized hoodie. At her missing front tooth. At her braids coming loose from the turbulence. She thought about her own daughter at home, just a year younger than this girl. But she also saw something else. The way Mia stood, balanced on her feet even as the plane pitched. The way her eyes were already scanning toward the cockpit, calculating. The absolute lack of panic in her face. "Please," Mia said quietly. "My mom prepared me for this. Let me try." Patricia made a decision that would haunt her or save her life, she wasn't sure which. She opened the cockpit door. What Mia saw made her stomach turn and her heart break all at once. The captain was slumped over the controls, blood on his white uniform shirt. Dead. A massive piece of engine shrapnel had penetrated the cockpit window, spiderwebbing the glass, and had struck him in the chest. He never had a chance. The first officer was unconscious, slumped in his seat, bleeding from a deep gash on his forehead where he'd hit the instrument panel. His breathing was shallow, but he was alive. The aircraft was in a 15-degree bank to the left, descending through 28,000 feet. The instruments were flashing warnings everywhere, red lights, yellow lights, master caution alarms screaming. One engine completely dead, the other running rough, vibrating, hydraulic pressure dropping. It was a nightmare scenario. For a moment, Mia froze. This wasn't a simulator. This was real. Real blood, real bodies, real death. Then she heard her mother's voice in her memory, from a training session 3 years ago, "Phoenix, when you're scared, that's when training saves you. You don't think. You do. Muscle memory. Trust your training." Mia climbed into the first officer's seat. She was too small, way too small. Her feet barely reached the rudder pedals. She couldn't see over the instrument panel properly. "I need cushions," she called out. Patricia sprang into action, grabbing seat cushions from first class. She stuffed them behind Mia's back, under her, anywhere to make her bigger. Other flight attendants appeared, helping, their faces pale with shock but moving automatically. Mia's hands were shaking as she gripped the control yoke. The plastic felt cold under her fingers. She could feel the aircraft fighting her through the controls, the damaged engine creating asymmetric thrust, trying to roll the plane over. She took a breath and started her scan, exactly like her mother had drilled into her 10,000 times. Attitude indicator, 15-degree bank, 5-degree nose down. Altitude, 27,500 feet and descending at 1,200 feet per minute. Airspeed, 280 knots and decreasing. Engine 1, failed. 0 RPM. 0 thrust. Engine 2, running at 62% power, high vibration warnings. Hydraulic pressure, System A at 45% and dropping. System B at 78%. Fuel, 12,000 pounds remaining. Her mother's voice in her head, "Always know your situation before you act. 3 seconds of assessment saves you from 30 seconds of wrong action." Mia reached for the radio with trembling fingers. She keyed the microphone. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, Southwest 2891. Engine explosion. Both pilots incapacitated. I'm a passenger taking control of the aircraft." There was a pause. Then a voice crackled back, confused and urgent, "Southwest 2891, say again. Who is this? Verify your identity." Mia took a deep breath. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Younger than she wanted. "Seattle Center, my name is Mia Torres. I'm 12 years old. My mother was Commander Elena Torres, United States Navy, call sign Phoenix. She taught me to fly from age 4. I have 1,400 hours of simulator time. I'm using her call sign now. This is Phoenix, and I have aircraft control." Another pause, longer this time. She could almost hear the controllers trying to process what they'd just heard. "Phoenix, copy that. We're getting you help. Stay on this frequency. Can you confirm both pilots are incapacitated?" "Yes, sir. Captain is deceased. First officer is unconscious with head trauma. I'm the only one flying this aircraft right now." "Understood, Phoenix. What is your training background?" Mia almost laughed. It was such a normal question in such an insane situation. "Sir, my mother trained me on Boeing 737 simulators for 8 years. She was a Navy test pilot. She made me learn every system, every emergency procedure. I've practiced engine failures, hydraulic failures, electrical failures, landing gear malfunctions, everything. I know this aircraft." She pulled back on the yoke gently, slowly leveling the wings. The plane stopped banking. She adjusted the throttle on the working engine, compensating for the dead one. The descent slowed from 1,200 feet per minute to 800. She was flying a Boeing 737 with 198 people on board. And she was 12 years old. Patricia stood behind her, one hand on the back of the seat, staring in disbelief as this tiny girl manipulated the controls like she'd been born to do it. 30 miles away, 2 Black Hawk helicopters were already scrambling. When Southwest 2891 declared an emergency, the military base nearest to their flight path launched an escort. Standard procedure for catastrophic aircraft failures near populated areas. Captain Marcus Webb was the lead pilot. He was 42 years old, 20 years in the military, and he'd seen a lot of emergencies. But when he heard that transmission, he almost couldn't believe it. "Did she say Phoenix?" his co-pilot asked. Webb keyed his radio to the emergency frequency. He heard the tiny voice again. "Phoenix to Seattle Center, I've stabilized the aircraft at 24,000 feet. Single engine operation. Request vectors to nearest suitable airport." Webb felt chills run down his spine. That voice. That call sign. "Phoenix," he said slowly. "That's Elena Torres's call sign. But Commander Torres, she died in a test crash 2 years ago." His co-pilot was already pulling up information on the tablet. "Says here Commander Elena Torres had one daughter. Age 12. Name, Mia Torres." Webb remembered Commander Torres. Everyone did. She was a legend. The first woman to fly certain experimental aircraft, fearless, brilliant. She died when a prototype fighter malfunctioned during a test flight. And Webb remembered something else. He'd served under Commander Torres for 6 months. She used to talk about her daughter all the time. Used to show videos on her phone of a little girl sitting in a flight simulator, hands on the controls, face serious and focused. "She's training her young," Webb had joked once. "She needs to know how to survive," Commander Torres had replied. It hadn't sounded like a joke. Now Webb understood. He keyed his radio to the emergency frequency. "Phoenix, this is Black Hawk lead, Captain Marcus Webb. I flew with your mother. She talked about you constantly. Said you were a better pilot at age 10 than most adults. Is that true?" There was a long pause. When the voice came back, it was crying. She said that about me." Webb's throat tightened. "All the time, kid. She was so proud of you. Now let's honor her memory by getting you down safe. I'm going to talk you through this. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir." The voice was steadier now. "Good. First, I need you to tell me your aircraft status." Mia's voice came back, reading instruments like she'd done it 1,000 times. "Altitude 24,000 feet, descending at 200 feet per minute, airspeed 240 knots, engine 1 complete failure. Engine 2 running at 62% power, rough vibration. Hydraulic pressure at 50% and dropping, fuel at 60%. 198 souls on board including myself." Webb looked at his co-pilot with wide eyes. That was a perfect emergency status report. From a 12-year-old. "Outstanding, Phoenix. How many flight hours do you have?" 1,400 hours, sir. All simulator. My mom trained me since I was 4. 1,400 hours. That was more than some commercial pilots had in real aircraft. Commander Torres had prepared her daughter for this exact situation. "All right, Phoenix. We're going to bring you home." Inside the cabin of Southwest 2891, passengers were starting to understand what was happening. Someone had seen the small girl walk into the cockpit. Someone else had heard her name on the overhead speakers when she talked to air traffic control. A woman in row 12 pulled out her phone. They were still high enough to have a weak signal. She typed into Google, "Commander Elena Torres Phoenix." The results came up immediately. Legendary test pilot dies in crash. Elena Torres broke barriers in naval aviation. Commander Torres, first woman to fly F-35 in combat testing, killed at age 38. There were pictures. A beautiful woman in a flight suit, standing in front of a Navy jet. Dark hair pulled back. Confident smile, awards on her chest. The woman in row 12 looked at the pictures. Then she looked toward the cockpit. She could just barely see the little girl sitting in the pilot's seat, her brown braids visible over the headrest. The resemblance was unmistakable. "Oh my God," she whispered. She showed her phone to the man next to her. He showed his wife. Soon everyone nearby was pulling out their phones, searching, reading. A young mother holding a baby made her way forward. Patricia tried to stop her, but the mother said, "I just want to say thank you." She approached the cockpit door carefully. She could see Mia inside, small hands gripping the controls, eyes focused straight ahead. "You're Commander Torres's daughter," the mother said softly. Mia glanced back quickly. "Yes, ma'am. She was my hero. I joined the Navy because of her. If you're anything like her, we're in good hands." Mia felt tears in her eyes but blinked them away. "Thank you." But not everyone was confident. A businessman in first class was panicking. "She's 12. We're all going to die because a child is flying this plane." Other passengers were crying, praying, holding each other. Mia could hear them. The cockpit door was still open. Their fear felt like a weight on her chest. She keyed the intercom. Her voice came through every speaker in the cabin. "This is Mia Torres. I understand you're all scared. I'm scared too. But my mother, Commander Elena Torres, spent 8 years teaching me to fly for exactly this kind of situation. She gave me 1,400 hours of training. She made me memorize every emergency procedure. She prepared me for this. So please, trust her training if you don't trust me. I'm going to get us down safely." The cabin went quiet. Then the young mother with the baby started clapping. One person, then two, then dozens. Not celebration, encouragement. Support. "You can do this," someone shouted. "We believe in you," another voice called. Mia wiped her eyes and focused on the instruments. Captain Webb's voice came through the radio. "Phoenix, we have a problem. On single-engine operation at this weight, you can't maintain altitude. You're going to keep descending. We need to try restarting engine 1. Mia's stomach dropped. "Sir, that engine exploded. There was shrapnel. I saw smoke." "I know. But we need to try. Your aircraft can't make it to any airport on one engine at this descent rate. You'll be on the ground in 20 minutes whether you want to be or not. We need that engine." Mia thought about her simulator training. Her mother had made her practice engine restart procedures hundreds of times. But that was in a simulator. This was real. A damaged engine. If it exploded again during restart, it could take out the whole wing. "Mom, if you can hear me, I could really use your help right now," Mia whispered. She keyed the radio. "Black Hawk lead, I'll try the restart. Walking through the checklist now. Take your time, Phoenix. We're right here with you." Mia's hands moved across the controls. She recited from memory, just like her mother had made her practice. Ignition selector to engine 1. She flipped the switch. Fuel flow check. She verified the fuel was flowing to engine 1. Starter engage. She pushed the button. The engine coughed. Sputtered, shook the entire aircraft. Black smoke poured out. Mia's heart pounded. "It's not catching," she said into the radio, trying to keep her voice steady. "Try again," Webb said calmly. "Your mother never gave up. Neither do you." Mia nodded even though he couldn't see her. She went through the sequence again. Ignition, fuel, starter. The engine coughed again. Sputtered, shook. Then caught. It was running rough, very rough, but it was producing thrust. The rate of descent slowed. The aircraft steadied. Engine restart successful. Mia shouted. Engine 1 at 40% power. Webb's voice came back, and she could hear the smile. Phoenix, you just restarted a damaged jet engine at age 12. Your mother is watching from heaven, and she is so proud of you right now. Mia couldn't help it. She started crying. But her hands stayed steady on the controls. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport was preparing for the emergency landing. Foam trucks were covering runway 16R with white fire suppressant foam. Every emergency vehicle in the city was staging nearby. News helicopters circled at a safe distance, cameras rolling. Inside the airport tower, controllers were clearing all other traffic. Southwest 2891 would have the entire airspace to itself. Mia was descending now, following Captain Webb's instructions. The Seattle skyline was visible through the broken cockpit window. Cold air rushed in. Her hands were freezing. Phoenix, you're 20 miles out, Webb said. Time to configure for landing. We'll do this step by step. First, deploy your flaps to 5 degrees. Mia found the flap lever. She moved it slowly. The aircraft shuddered as the flaps extended. Flaps 5, she reported. Good. How does she feel? Shaky. The damaged engine is vibrating a lot. That's normal. You're doing great. Now, at 15 miles, we'll extend to 15 degrees flaps and lower the landing gear. The miles ticked by. Mia's heart was racing but her training held. At 15 miles, she extended the flaps further and pulled the landing gear lever. There was a loud grinding noise. The aircraft shook. Red lights flashed on the panel. Landing gear showing unsafe. Mia said, fear creeping into her voice. Check your indicators, Webb said calmly. What do you see? Mia looked at the 3 green lights that should show when landing gear was down and locked. Only 2 were green. The nose gear light was red. Nose gear won't lock. Alright, we're going to try the backup system. There's a manual release. Webb talked her through it. Mia found the manual release and pulled it. The gear chunked into place. All 3 lights turned green. Gear down and locked. Relief flooded through her. Outstanding. Now, Phoenix, I need you to listen carefully. At 5,000 feet, I want you to extend flaps to 30 degrees. That's full landing configuration. The aircraft will slow down significantly. Keep your speed above 140 knots. Below that, you'll stall. At 5,000 feet, passengers could see the airport. Some were crying. Others praying. The young mother held her baby close. At 3,000 feet, Mia's voice came over the radio, smaller now. Scared. Captain Webb. I'm scared. What if I crash like my mom? Webb's response was firm but gentle. Phoenix, listen to me. Your mother didn't crash because she lacked skill. That experimental aircraft had a catastrophic mechanical failure. You're flying a proven aircraft. It's damaged, yes, but you can do this. She taught you how. Trust your training. Trust her. Mia wiped her eyes. Yes, sir. At 1,000 feet, the runway came into clear view. It looked impossibly small. The foam covering made it white instead of black. It looks so tiny, Mia whispered. That's normal, Webb said. Keep coming. You're on perfect approach. Airspeed 145 knots. Perfect. Altitude 1,000 feet. You're going to make it. The entire world was watching now. News channels had interrupted regular programming. 12-year-old attempting emergency landing ran across every screen. Inside the aircraft, it was silent except for the roar of the damaged engines and the wind through the broken cockpit window. Mia's tiny hands gripped the control yoke. Her feet pressed the rudder pedals, she had to stretch to reach them even with the cushions. 500 feet, Webb said. You're doing perfect, Phoenix. Don't change a thing. 400 feet. Mia could see the foam clearly now. Emergency vehicles lined both sides of the runway. Red lights flashing everywhere. 300 feet. At 100 feet, you'll see the runway expanding in your vision. That's normal. 200 feet. Mia's breathing was fast but controlled. Everything her mother taught her was coming back. Every simulator session, every emergency procedure. 8 years of preparation for this one moment. 100 feet. Phoenix, at 50 feet, you'll pull back gently on the yoke. Let the nose come up. Main wheels touch first. Then hold the nose up as long as you can before letting it down. Can you do that? Yes, sir. 50 feet. Pull back now. Mia pulled the yoke toward her chest. The nose of the aircraft rose. The main landing gear dropped toward the runway. Thump. The main wheels hit the foam-covered runway. The aircraft bounced slightly. Mia held the nose up like Webb had said. I'm down. I'm down, she shouted. Brakes, Phoenix. Stop the aircraft. Mia pushed her feet forward with all her strength. The brake pedals were so hard to push. She stood up in the seat, using her whole body weight. The aircraft decelerated. The runway rushed past. They were using up all of it. Every foot. The end of the runway was coming fast. Come on, come on. Mia grunted, pushing harder. The aircraft slowed. Slowed more. And stopped. 300 feet of runway remaining. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the cabin erupted. Passengers were crying, cheering, applauding, hugging strangers. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Others just sobbed with relief. Mia sat in the pilot's seat, shaking uncontrollably. She reached into her backpack on the floor and pulled out her mother's cracked flight helmet. She put it on her head. It was way too big, but she didn't care. I did it, Mom, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Just like you taught me. Emergency crews swarmed the aircraft. Paramedics rushed aboard. The first officer was unconscious but alive. They stabilized him and got him to an ambulance. He would survive with a serious concussion and lacerations. The captain hadn't survived the initial explosion. Paramedics confirmed what everyone already knew. He was covered with a sheet and carried out respectfully. The passengers evacuated down emergency slides, but many stopped to look for Mia. The young mother with the baby found her first. Mia was still sitting in the pilot's seat, wearing her mother's helmet, shaking. You saved my daughter's life, the mother said, tears running down her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. An elderly man was next. You're a miracle, child. An absolute miracle. The businessman who had been panicking earlier came to the cockpit door. His face was red, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry I doubted you. You're braver than any adult on this plane. Braver than me. I'm so sorry. Mia just nodded. She couldn't speak. Everything was hitting her at once. Patricia, the flight attendant, pushed through and wrapped Mia in a tight hug. Your mother would be so proud of you, sweetie. So proud. That's when Mia collapsed emotionally. She sobbed into Patricia's shoulder. I want my mom, she cried. I miss her so much. I miss her every day. Patricia held her tight. She was with you the whole time, honey. I know she was. Guiding your hands, telling you what to do. She never left you. Outside, news helicopters were capturing everything. The images of emergency crews, of passengers hugging each other, of a small girl in an oversized flight helmet being carried out of the cockpit. Within minutes, the footage was everywhere. By the next morning, Mia Torres was the most famous person in America. 12-year-old lands jet using dead mother's training. Miracle landing, child pilot saves 198 lives. Daughter of legendary test pilot honors mother's legacy. But Mia wasn't doing interviews. She was at her grandmother's house in Seattle, under protection from the media circus outside. 3 days after the landing, a Navy car pulled up to the house. Admiral Richard Carson stepped out. He was 60 years old, gray hair, chest covered with medals and ribbons. He had been Commander Elena Torres's commanding officer. Mia's grandmother let him in. Mia was sitting on the couch, still wearing her mother's hoodie. Admiral Carson sat down across from her. "Mia, do you know who I am?" She nodded. "You were my mom's boss." "That's right. Commander Torres was the finest pilot I ever knew. And she talked about you constantly. Showed us videos of you in the simulators. We all knew she was training you. We just didn't understand why until now." Mia looked down at her hands. Carson continued, "Your mother knew her test flight work was dangerous. Every time she went up in a new aircraft, she knew something could go wrong. So she prepared you. She made sure you could survive without her. That's what mothers do." "Did she know she was going to die?" Mia asked quietly. Carson was quiet for a moment. "She knew it was possible. And she made sure you would be okay. More than okay. You saved 198 people using skills she taught you. That's her legacy, Mia. She's still saving lives." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out 2 items. Her mother's Navy wings, the gold pin that pilots wear on their uniforms. And her Navy Cross Medal, one of the highest decorations for valor. "She would want you to have these," Carson said, placing them in Mia's small hands. Mia stared at the wings. They were her mother's. She closed her fingers around them and started crying again. 2 weeks later, Admiral Carson came back. This time, his face was serious in a different way. "Mia, there's something you need to know about your mother's death," he said. Mia's grandmother sat next to her, holding her hand. Carson took a deep breath. "We've completed the investigation into the crash that killed your mother. It wasn't an accident. It was sabotage." Mia felt like the floor dropped out from under her. "What?" "Your mother was testing a new fighter jet. She discovered serious design flaws that the defense contractor had hidden. Flaws that could have killed pilots in combat. She was going to testify about it, report it to Congress. The contractor couldn't let that happen. They tampered with the aircraft. They murdered her." Mia's voice was barely a whisper. Carson nodded, his jaw tight. "Yes. The people responsible are being arrested as we speak. They'll face justice. But Mia, here's what you need to understand, your mother knew she was in danger. That's why she trained you so intensively. She knew they might try to silence her. She wanted you ready for anything." Mia felt anger burning in her chest. She knew they might kill her, and she still tried to tell the truth. "That's what heroes do," Carson said. "They don't stay quiet just because it's safer. They speak up. They do what's right, even when it costs them everything. And you're just like her, Mia. When everyone on that plane needed a hero, you stood up. Just like she did." Mia wiped angry tears from her face. "The people who killed her, they're really going to jail. They're going to prison for the rest of their lives," Carson promised. "Your mother's testimony was documented. Her evidence was preserved. They can't hide anymore. She won, Mia. Even after they killed her, she still won. 3 months later, Mia stood at Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia. Hundreds of pilots were gathered. Active duty, retired. All of them had come to honor Commander Elena Torres. A memorial was being unveiled. A granite stone with her name, her rank, her call sign, a bronze plaque with her photo in her flight suit, smiling that confident smile. They asked Mia if she wanted to speak. She was terrified. But she thought about her mother facing down corrupt contractors. She thought about climbing into that cockpit with everyone watching. She could do this. She walked to the podium. Someone had to lower the microphone way down for her. Mia looked out at the crowd of pilots. Warriors, heroes, all looking at her. My mom called me Phoenix because she said that even if she fell, I would rise, Mia began. Her voice was small but clear. She taught me to fly so I would never be helpless. She died trying to save future pilots from defective aircraft. And today, 198 people are alive because she spent 8 years teaching me. She paused, fighting tears. That's her legacy. She's still saving lives. Even though she's gone, she's still protecting people. That's what real heroes do. The crowd was silent. Many had tears in their eyes. She didn't just teach me to fly, Mia continued. She taught me to speak up when something is wrong. To help people when they need it. Never give up, even when you're scared. Even when everyone says you're too small, too young, too weak. She looked at the memorial, at her mother's bronze face. I love you, Mom. And I'm going to make you proud. The crowd erupted in applause. Pilots were saluting. Some were openly crying. Admiral Carson presented Mia with her mother's Navy wings, officially. Mia pinned them to her jacket. Then she walked to the memorial and placed her mother's cracked flight helmet at the base. The helmet that had been with her in the cockpit, the helmet that connected them. What will you do now, Mia? Admiral Carson asked quietly. Mia looked up at him with determined eyes. I'm going to become a test pilot, just like my mom. I'm going to finish what she started. Make sure aircraft are safe. Make sure no one else dies because companies hide the truth. And maybe someday, I'll teach my own kids to fly. Pass it forward. Keep the Phoenix alive. Carson smiled. She would love that. 1 year later. Mia was 13 now. Taller and no longer missing her front tooth. But still with those same brown braids. She sat in the back seat of a Navy T-45 training aircraft. The instructor pilot, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, was in the front seat. They were flying over the Virginia coast, practicing basic maneuvers. Mia had special permission to fly with Navy instructors as part of her continuing education. Her mother's legacy had opened doors. You're a natural pilot, Mia, Chen said over the intercom. Just like your mother. She's still teaching me, Mia replied. I hear her voice every time I fly. She looked up at the clouds, at the endless blue sky. Thanks, Mom. For everything. I'm Phoenix now. And I won't let you down. The radio crackled. An emergency call from somewhere nearby. A small civilian aircraft in distress, pilot having a medical emergency. Tower is calling for experienced pilots in the area, Chen said. Mia smiled. I'm 13 now, ma'am. I have experience. Chen laughed. That you do, Phoenix. That you do. Let's go help them. The T-45 banked hard and accelerated toward the emergency. Mia's hands were steady on the controls, her mother's wings pinned to her flight suit. Call signs never die. They just pass to the next generation. The Phoenix was rising again, and she would never stop flying. Sarah Chen, the tech executive in row 12, pulled up videos of Commander Elena Torres on her phone. In one video, Torres said, "Fear is just information. But training tells you what to do about it. I trust my training more than I trust my fear. Sarah looked toward the cockpit where Mia sat. The girl's mother's words echoed in her head. Trust training more than fear. She started posting to social media. I'm on Southwest 2891. 12-year-old girl is flying our plane. Her mother was Navy legend Commander Elena Torres. If anyone can save us, she can. Hashtag Phoenix Rising. Within minutes, the posts went viral. Millions were following the emergency in real time. In row 15, an elderly veteran named Robert held his wife's hand. He'd flown B-17 bombers over Germany in 1944. He'd seen young men do impossible things when called upon. She'll make it, he told Margaret. I've seen it before. When the moment comes, the young ones rise up. That girl's got her mother's blood. She'll bring us home. In row 22, teenager Marcus filmed everything. He could see Mia's small silhouette in the pilot's seat. Her braids, her tiny hands on the yoke. Marcus posted a video. This is real. 12-year-old Mia Torres is flying our plane. Her mom was a Navy pilot who died training her. This is the bravest thing I've ever seen. Whatever happens, this girl is a hero. Hashtag Phoenix Torres. The video got 5 million views in 30 minutes. At Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, the control tower was in organized chaos. Controllers were clearing every aircraft from the airspace. Air traffic controller Mike Davidson keyed his microphone. Phoenix, Seattle Tower. Runway 16R is being prepared. All other traffic cleared. We're ready when you are. Mia's young voice came back, professional and precise. Seattle Tower, Phoenix. Estimate 23 minutes to runway. Request emergency equipment standing by. Already staged, Phoenix, fire, medical, everything. We've got you. Mike looked at his supervisor, Linda Chen, watching the radar screen. She sounds so young, Linda said quietly. She sounds trained, Mike replied. That's what matters. As Mia descended toward Seattle, every second felt like an hour. Her hands were cramping from gripping the yoke. Her legs were shaking from the constant pressure on the rudder pedals. The cold air rushing through the broken cockpit window was freezing her fingers, making them stiff. But she couldn't stop. Couldn't rest, had to keep flying. Captain Webb's voice came through her headset. Phoenix, you're doing great. 15 miles out now. Let's run through your pre-landing checklist. Mia's voice was tired but steady. Pre-landing checklist. Altimeters checked and set. Landing lights on. Seat belts, passengers are already belted. Flaps currently at 5 degrees. Good. At 10 miles, we'll extend to flaps 15 and drop the gear. Your aircraft is going to get a lot slower and a lot noisier. The damaged engine is going to vibrate more. That's all normal. Are you ready? Mia looked at the altitude. 12,000 feet. She could see Seattle clearly now. The Space Needle, the downtown skyline, and in the distance, the airport. So far away still. I'm ready, sir. The miles ticked by. Mia's mother's voice echoed in her memory from hundreds of training sessions. Approach is where most accidents happen. You get task saturated. Too many things to do at once. That's why we practice until it's automatic. You don't think. You just do. At 10 miles, Mia extended the flaps to 15 degrees. The aircraft shook violently. The damaged engine screamed in protest. Warning lights flashed. But the plane slowed, settling into landing configuration. Gear down, Webb said calmly. Mia pulled the landing gear lever. She heard the grinding of hydraulics, felt the thump as the gear extended. 3 green lights appeared on her panel. Gear down and locked, she reported. Outstanding, Phoenix. You're on perfect glide slope. 500 feet per minute descent. Speed 150 knots. You're threading the needle perfectly. Inside the cabin, passengers could see the airport now. Fire trucks and ambulances lined the runway, lights flashing. News helicopters circled at a distance. The foam on the runway made it look white instead of black. Lisa, still standing near the cockpit with baby Emma, whispered a prayer. Please God, guide her hands. Guide this brave girl. Bring us home. At 5 miles out, Mia extended the flaps to 30 degrees, full landing configuration. The aircraft slowed to 140 knots. The stall warning system was getting close to activation. Any slower and the plane would drop from the sky. Phoenix, you're getting slow, Webb said. Add a touch of power. Mia pushed the throttles forward slightly. The damaged engine coughed, sputtered, then increased power. The airspeed stabilized at 145 knots. At 3,000 feet, Mia could see individual emergency vehicles. She could see people standing on the airport buildings, watching. News cameras. Her hands were shaking so badly now that the control yoke was vibrating. Captain Webb, she said, her voice breaking. I'm scared. What if I crash like my mom? What if I kill everyone? Webb's response was immediate and firm. Mia, listen to me. Your mother didn't crash because she lacked skill. She was the best pilot I ever knew. That experimental aircraft had a catastrophic mechanical failure. Nothing she could have done would have saved it. But you're flying a proven aircraft. It's damaged, yes, but it's flyable. You've proven that. And you have something your mother didn't have in her final moments. What's that? You have help. You have me. You have air traffic control. You have emergency crews ready. You have nearly 200 people on that plane believing in you. And you have your mother's spirit guiding you. You're not alone, Phoenix. You're never alone. Mia wiped her eyes. Yes, sir. I can do this. I know you can. 1,000 feet now. Runway is directly ahead. Keep your wings level. Keep your speed up. You're almost home. At 500 feet, Mia could see the foam clearly. Could see the tire marks from previous landings. Could see emergency personnel in silver fire suits standing ready. At 200 feet, Captain Webb's Black Hawk peeled off, giving her clear airspace. You've got it from here, Phoenix. Nice and smooth. Let the plane fly itself onto the runway. At 100 feet, time seemed to slow down. Mia could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Could hear the passengers behind her holding their breath, could feel her mother's presence, almost like hands covering her hands on the controls. 50 feet, Webb's voice said calmly. Pull back gently. Flare. Let the main wheels touch first. Mia pulled back on the yoke, just like she'd done 1,000 times in the simulator. The nose rose. The sink rate decreased. The ground rushed up to meet them. And then, contact. Thump. The main wheels hit the foam-covered runway. The aircraft bounced slightly. Mia had pulled back a bit too much, then settled. She held the yoke back, keeping the nose up, letting the main wheels take the weight. The nose gear touched down gently. I'm down. I'm down. Mia screamed. Brakes, Phoenix. Full brakes. Webb shouted. Mia stood up in the seat, putting all of her body weight on the brake pedals. The aircraft decelerated, foam spraying everywhere, emergency vehicles racing alongside them. But they were going fast. So fast. The end of the runway was coming up quickly. Come on, stop. Mia grunted, pushing harder on the brakes. The aircraft slowed. And slowed, and slowed. And stopped. with exactly 283 feet of runway remaining. For 3 long seconds, there was absolute silence. Then the cabin exploded with sound. Passengers screaming with joy, crying, applauding, hugging strangers, falling to their knees in prayer. People were laughing and sobbing at the same time. Emergency crews swarmed the aircraft. Fire trucks sprayed foam on the damaged engine. Paramedics rushed aboard. Mia sat in the pilot's seat, her whole body shaking uncontrollably. She reached down to her backpack on the floor and pulled out her mother's cracked flight helmet. She put it on her head. It was way too big, sliding down over her eyes, but she didn't care. She whispered into the empty cockpit, "I did it, Mom. Just like you taught me. I brought them home. All of them. I finished the mission." And then she started crying. Not tears of fear or sadness, but of relief. Of exhaustion. Of grief that her mother wasn't there to see it. Of pride that she'd honored her mother's legacy. Patricia climbed into the cockpit and wrapped her arms around Mia, holding the shaking girl tight. "You did it, sweetie. You saved us all. Your mother would be so proud of you." Outside, news cameras captured everything. The image of a tiny 12-year-old girl in an oversized flight helmet, sitting in the pilot's seat of a commercial airliner, crying tears of relief while a flight attendant held her. That image would appear on the front page of every newspaper in the world. 3 days after the landing, Admiral Richard Carson stood in the living room of Mia's grandmother's house in Seattle. He was a tall man, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent 40 years in military service. His chest was covered with ribbons and medals, a lifetime of service. But right now, looking at the small 12-year-old girl sitting on the couch wrapped in her mother's hoodie, he felt humble. Mia's grandmother, Helen Torres, brought him coffee. She was 72 years old, still grieving the loss of her daughter, and now trying to process the fact that her granddaughter had become a worldwide hero. "Thank you for coming, Admiral," Helen said quietly. Carson sat down across from Mia. The girl looked exhausted. There were dark circles under her eyes. She'd barely slept since the landing, waking up screaming from nightmares of the cockpit, of blood, of her mother's crash. "Mia, do you know who I am?" Carson asked gently. She nodded. "You were my mom's commanding officer. You gave her the Navy Cross after she saved that pilot in the carrier accident." Carson smiled sadly. He remembered that day. Elena Torres had risked her own life to pull an injured pilot from a burning F-18 on the carrier deck. She'd suffered second-degree burns on her hands and arms. But she'd saved the pilot's life. "That's right," Carson said. "Your mother and I served together for 8 years. She was the finest pilot I ever knew. And do you know what she talked about most when we had downtime?" Mia shook her head. "You," Carson said. "She talked about you constantly. Showed us videos of you in the simulators, showed us your drawings of aircraft. Told us stories about how you could identify any plane just from the sound of its engines. She was so proud of you, Mia. More proud than she was of any medal or award she ever received." Mia's eyes filled with tears. "Then why did she leave me? Why did she keep flying those dangerous planes?" Carson took a deep breath. This was the hard part. The truth. Because she believed in something bigger than herself. She believed that the work she was doing, testing new aircraft, finding design flaws before they killed combat pilots, she believed that work saved lives. And she was right. The flaws she discovered in aircraft saved dozens, maybe hundreds of pilots who would have died if those planes had gone into production with hidden defects. He leaned forward, his voice intense. "Your mother knew her job was dangerous. Every time she climbed into an experimental aircraft, she knew something could go wrong. But she also knew that if she didn't do it, someone else would. And they might not be as skilled. They might not survive the failures she survived. She had a gift, Mia. A gift for flying, for understanding aircraft, for pushing limits safely. And she used that gift to protect others. But what about protecting me? Mia said, her voice breaking. She protected everyone else, but she left me alone. Carson reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. He opened it and spread photos across the coffee table. Mia leaned forward, looking at them. They were surveillance photos. Someone had been following her mother. Watching her. There were pictures of Elena leaving the base. Going to the store, picking Mia up from school. What are these? Mia asked. Evidence, Carson said grimly. After your mother died, we investigated. We found that the defense contractor building the experimental fighter your mother was testing had been following her. Threatening her. They knew she discovered fatal design flaws in their aircraft. Flaws that would have cost them billions in contracts. She was going to testify about it. Go public. They couldn't let that happen. Mia felt sick. They killed her. Yes, Carson said. They tampered with the aircraft. Made it look like an accident. We have evidence now. The people responsible are in federal custody. They'll spend the rest of their lives in prison. Mia stared at the photos. Her mother had known. She'd known she was in danger. She knew they might kill her, Mia whispered. Yes, Carson said. And that's why she trained you so intensively. She knew her time might be limited. She wanted you ready for anything. Ready to survive, ready to protect yourself. She spent thousands of hours preparing you because she loved you more than anything in the world. He pulled out more items from his briefcase. Flight logs. Training records, videos of Mia in simulators from when she was just 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, practicing emergency landings over and over. Your mother documented everything, Carson said. She kept detailed records of your training. She wrote in her personal log, Phoenix is ready. If anything happens to me, she'll survive. She'll thrive. I've given her the tools. I've given her the skills. I've given her everything I have. My daughter will never be helpless. Mia was crying openly now. I miss her so much. I know you do, Carson said softly. But Mia, look at what you did. 198 people went home to their families because your mother spent 8 years teaching you. That's her legacy. She's still saving lives through you. She's still protecting people through you. And she always will be. He reached back into his briefcase and pulled out 2 items. Her mother's Navy wings, the gold pin that pilots wear on their uniforms. And her Navy Cross Medal, one of the highest decorations for valor. She would want you to have these, Carson said, placing them in Mia's small hands. And I have one more thing. He pulled out a letter. Sealed envelope. Mia's name written on it in her mother's handwriting. Your mother left this with me 4 months before she died. She made me promise to give it to you if anything happened to her. I think now is the right time. Mia took the envelope with shaking hands. She stared at her mother's handwriting. Then carefully, she opened it. Inside was a single handwritten letter. Her mother's words. My dearest Phoenix. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. And I'm so sorry. I never wanted to leave you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Being your mother was my greatest joy and my greatest honor. I know you're probably angry at me right now. Angry that I kept flying dangerous missions, angry that I left you alone. And you have every right to be angry. But I need you to understand something. The work I do saves lives. The aircraft I test, the flaws I find, every defect I discover before a plane goes into production means pilots who will come home to their families instead of dying in crashes. I've saved dozens of lives through my work. Maybe hundreds. And I couldn't stop doing it, even though I knew the risks. But more importantly, I taught you everything I know because I wanted you to never feel helpless. The world can be cruel. Bad things happen to good people. Planes crash. People die. Life is uncertain. But if you have skills, if you have training, if you have knowledge, then you always have a chance. You can always fight back. You can always survive. I've given you the gift of flight. The gift of understanding aircraft, the gift of confidence in your abilities. Those are gifts that can never be taken from you. If you're reading this, then something went wrong. I knew this day might come. But I'm not afraid, Phoenix. Do you know why? Because I know you're ready. I know you can handle whatever life throws at you. I've made sure of it. Be brave, my darling. Be strong. Use everything I taught you. Help people when you can. Stand up for what's right. Never give up, even when you're scared. And always remember, I'm with you. Every time you fly, I'm right there beside you. Guiding your hands, whispering in your ear, telling you that you can do it. You are my phoenix. And even if I fall, you will rise. You will soar. You will do amazing things. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. Forever your mom. Commander Elena Torres. Mia read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Her grandmother sat beside her, holding her, both of them crying. Admiral Carson stood up quietly, giving them space to grieve, to heal. When Mia finally looked up, her eyes were red but determined. I'm going to finish what she started, Mia said firmly. I'm going to become a test pilot. I'm going to make sure aircraft are safe. I'm going to make sure no one else's mother dies because companies hide defects. And I'm going to teach others to fly, just like she taught me. I'm going to pass it forward. Carson smiled, tears in his own eyes. She would love that, Mia. She would love that so much. Mia was 13 now. She'd grown 2 inches. Her missing tooth had been replaced. She still wore her mother's hoodie sometimes, but she'd also started wearing her mother's navy wings pinned to her jacket. She sat in the back seat of a Navy T-45 Goshawk training aircraft. The instructor pilot, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, was in the front seat. They were flying over the Chesapeake Bay, practicing basic aerobatic maneuvers. Mia had been granted special permission by the Secretary of the Navy to fly with military instructors. It was unprecedented, a 13-year-old civilian flying in military training aircraft. But after what she'd done, after the investigation into her mother's death, after the world had seen her courage, they'd made an exception. You've got natural feel for the aircraft, Mia, Chen said over the intercom. Just like your mother. The stick and rudder skills are genetic, I think. Mia smiled. She used to say that flying was like dancing. You have to feel the music. They practiced aileron rolls, barrel rolls, loops. Mia's stick inputs were smooth, confident. A year of continued training had only sharpened her skills. Your mother would be bursting with pride right now, Chen said. Watching you fly like this. I feel her sometimes, Mia said quietly. When I'm flying. I hear her voice telling me what to do. Is that weird? Not weird at all. I hear my old instructor's voice every time I fly. The good ones stay with you forever. The radio crackled. Navy Trainer 42, this is Norfolk approach. We have an emergency in progress. Civilian Cessna, 20 miles northeast of your position, pilot experiencing medical emergency, aircraft descending. We're calling for any available aircraft with instructor pilot to provide assistance. Chen keyed her mic, Norfolk approach, Trainer 42. We're 12 miles south of that position. We can be on scene in 3 minutes. Roger, Trainer 42. Proceed to intercept. Civilian aircraft is a student pilot on his first solo cross-country. He's panicking. Chen banked the T-45 hard, accelerating toward the emergency. Mia, you listening? Yes, ma'am. We're going to help someone today. Just like people helped you. That's what we do. We pass it forward. They intercepted the Cessna 5 minutes later. Chen could see the small aircraft wobbling through the sky, clearly being flown by someone who was terrified. Cessna 734, this is Navy Trainer 42. We're on your right wing. We're here to help. What's your situation? A young male voice, shaking with terror. My instructor had a heart attack. He's unconscious. I've only had 12 hours of training. I don't know how to land. I'm going to crash. Chen's voice was calm, soothing. No, you're not. We're going to talk you through this. First, take a deep breath. You're flying fine right now. Wings level, steady altitude. You're doing great. But I don't know how to land. That's okay. We're going to teach you. Step by step. What's your name? Kevin. Kevin Martinez. I'm 17. This is my first solo cross-country. I'm so scared. In the back seat, Mia keyed her intercom. Ma'am, permission to speak to him. Chen paused, then nodded. Go ahead. Mia switched to the radio frequency. Kevin, my name is Mia Torres. I'm 13. A year ago, I landed a Boeing 737 with both pilots incapacitated. If I can do that, you can land a Cessna. You're going to be okay. We're here to help you. There was a pause. Wait, you're the Mia Torres. From the Southwest flight? Yeah, that's me. And I know exactly how scared you are right now. Your heart is pounding. Your hands are shaking. You think there's no way you can do this. But Kevin, you can do it. You have training. You have help. And most importantly, you have the courage to try. That's all you need. Kevin's voice was still shaking but less panicked. Okay. Okay. What do I do? For the next 20 minutes, Lieutenant Commander Chen and Mia talked Kevin through the approach. Step by step. Reducing power, deploying flaps, lining up with the runway, maintaining airspeed. And when Kevin's Cessna touched down on the runway, rough, bouncing twice, but safe, Mia felt tears in her eyes. You did it, Kevin, she shouted into the radio. You did it. I did it. Oh my God, I did it. Kevin was crying and laughing at the same time. Emergency crews rushed to the Cessna. Kevin's instructor was taken to the hospital. He would survive. Thanks to a scared 17-year-old student pilot who found courage when he needed it. And thanks to a 13-year-old girl who understood exactly what he was going through. As Chen flew them back to base, Mia looked up at the clouds. The endless blue sky, her mother's sky. Thanks, Mom, she whispered. For everything, for teaching me, for preparing me. For loving me enough to make sure I'd survive even when you were gone. I'm Phoenix now. And I'm going to keep rising. I'm going to keep helping people. I'm going to keep your legacy alive. The T-45 climbed into the sunset, engines roaring, carrying the next generation of the Phoenix call sign toward her destiny. Some mothers prepare their daughters for normal life. But Commander Elena Torres prepared her daughter for the impossible. And because of that love, that sacrifice, that dedication, 198 people went home from Southwest Flight 2891. Kevin Martinez landed his Cessna safely. And Mia Torres grew up to become the youngest person ever accepted into the Navy Test Pilot School at age 21. She became a test pilot like her mother. Found the flaws. Saved the lives, taught the next generation. And she never flew a single mission without her mother's cracked flight helmet in her locker. Without her mother's Navy wings pinned to her flight suit. Without her mother's voice in her head, calm and clear. Phoenix, you're ready. You can handle anything. You're never helpless. You're never alone. I'm always with you. Now fly. Call signs never die. They just pass to the next generation.